public land isn't actually crowded, or at least not in the way social media wants you to think that it is. So anytime we open up any sort of social media app, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, the list goes on, you always see on there or hear on the videos of people complaining about just how crowded public land tends to be these days. You can see people complaining about every time they pull up to their favorite gate, there's a multitude of trucks parked there, or anytime they go into any particular piece of property, they constantly bump into other hunters that are also using that said piece of property. And although I do understand the sentiment behind the remarks that are made, I think there's a lot of details that are missed on any given hunter's experience. So the truth of public land isn't the fact that public land is necessarily more crowded than it was 20 years ago, because the truth is it's not. We have way more acreage of land comparative to hunters than we can even fathom. Where the real problem comes into effect is we all have the same habits. We all do the same things, and we are habitually crowded. If public land were truly overcrowded, if we were running out of property to hunt, if we were running out of places to go and explore and adventure, then I would not find myself on this public land as often as I do. Probably, I know for a fact that at least 50% of my hunts, and I would say probably 80% of my hunts, I find myself on public ground. And if it was truly an overcrowded problem, if we were truly encroaching on each other every hunt that I went out on, I would not find enjoyment in that. I would not be able to actually sit back and enjoy the experiences of public land hunting. So why then, why do we find ourselves reading about how public land is just going away and there's no more public land to hunt, and we constantly have overcrowding problems, and we need to stop letting out-of-staters come and hunt our public land, and blah, blah, blah. The list goes on and on and on. Well, the fact is, hunters hunt the same locations. We're all like-minded. We're all looking for the same thing. We're all looking for the same sign. We're all looking for the same ease of entrance, the ease of accessibility. We're all going after what is going to be most convenient for us and what we're pursuing. So let's look at it from a human aspect. Like I just said, we're all looking for the easy route. Humans, by nature, are, and I'm not trying to knock on anyone, I'm not trying to criticize, and I'm not trying to offend here, because I'm talking to myself just as much as I'm talking to you, but we're all just a little bit lazy. We're going to look for the easiest way in to whatever property that we can get to. A lot of times that means parking at a gate and hiking up an access road. Or maybe it's the quickest thing we can get to a truck, because we know that evenings are going to be what we hunt and we need something that's 100 yards away. When you start taking everybody into consideration, even if you have 5,000 acres to hunt on, if there's 20, 30 people hunting on that property and they all go into it like-minded of finding the easiest route possible, then yes, there's going to be a little bit of a bottlenecking. There's going to be people consolidated into one area, and it will give you the perception that the property that you're hunting on has become overcrowded, when in reality, we're only touching 2%, 3%, 10% at max of the property that we could be exploring on. Now, on the flip side of that coin, I see the argument of, well, I hike 2 miles, I hike 3 miles, I hike to Timbuktu and back. There is another populace on the other side of the spectrum of being lazy that says we need to hike as far away from the gate as we can to get away from the people, to get away from the pressure, and to get away from the overcrowdedness. Regardless, we still have a mentality set, whether you're on the lazy end of the spectrum or the I'm gonna out hike everybody side of the spectrum. We still find ourselves with like-minded individuals and end up stepping on each other's toes. When we're all pursuing the same animal and the animal is doing the same evasive tactics that the animal is going to do to avoid any predator, of course it's going to be us ending up bumping into each other. But that does not mean that the property is overcrowded. It means that we are not looking at it from outside of our own box, our own perception, our own tactics. Think about something. 20 or 30 years ago, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, these things did not exist. And if they did exist, they were at the beginning stages where most outdoorsmen didn't even look at it. Now in 2026, everybody has their opinion and they can voice it on the internet. So we all, whether we form our own opinions and go out and gain our own knowledge and learn woodsmanship properly or not, we all end up taking those opinions from other hunters in and including them in our own toolbox. So yes, eventually we are all going to be looking at the exact same pin on the exact same topographical map and going in there, and lo and behold, we're going to find other hunters. So instead of getting frustrated, instead of throwing in the towel and saying that hunting has become the rich man's game and that if you don't have private property, you can't get out of pressure, maybe pause and expand on that map a little bit. Instead of looking at it at 50 yards or 500 yards, maybe back it out to 5 miles and you'll see that the exact same pinpoints that you were looking for on the map, whether it's the fingers or the creek bottoms or the tree types or the burns or whatever it is that you're looking at, I guarantee if you just kind of back out and look at it from a larger perspective, you'll find that there's going to be a lot of untouched regions on that map that you weren't even thinking of. And if you weren't thinking of it, guess what? Someone else probably wasn't either, which means that you have a much better chance of getting into a piece of property that not a lot of boots have touched. Here's the thing though, that will also become a full circle effect. Hunting and fishing and outdoor life in general is all a revolving door where we have to learn how to adapt and overcome not only the animal and the ever-changing environment that they live in, but also the other people that are creating the pressures inside of the ecosystem that we're out there enjoying. Not only can thinking outside of the box give us a better perspective and get us away from the pressures of other hunters, but animals also know when they are being hunted. If you don't believe me, ask any biologist that is way smarter than me and they will tell you animals sense pressure. They know when they are being pursued. And if you've got a group of weekend warriors that are hunting the same block of timber every single weekend, within a couple weeks, they're going to figure out what the game is that is being played and they will beat you at your own game. So even if you're lucky enough to not be in one of these situations where you're seeing all this pressure and you're seeing overcrowding, maybe you know that there's a couple of hunters using a certain block of timber. Use these same principles and apply them to your hunting skills, and you, I guarantee you, will be able to get away from the pressure and see more animals and inherently become more successful over time. Now, yes, there is the argument of small property hunting, small public land hunting, and I hunt a lot of small land around the area that I live in Western North Carolina. And yeah, there does get to be some crowding that goes on during, especially during the peaks of season. So the rut or turkey season as a whole tends to get overcrowded on these small properties. I don't really have a cheat sheet for that. I will agree with you that yes, those small properties do tend to get overcrowded. But if you're noticing that there's a lot of people on these smaller properties, on these easier to access properties or just smaller acreage properties, chances are they're leaving the big blocks of timber alone. I do understand that hunting these bigger monotonous forests does take a little bit of work, but if you'll go back into my videos, you'll see that I have broke that down, that you can take these big chunks of timber and you can block it down into that same small property mentality and become more successful over time. A lot of times we get guilty of finding the spot that we want the animal to be in and hunting it. And we hunt it hard and we give it 100% effort and we do everything right as far as tactics are concerned, whether that's our approach, our wind, whatever it is, our noise discipline. We do everything right except for the think that other hunters are probably thinking the exact same thing that we are, because we're all out here doing the same thing. So we have to get creative. We have to go and we have to look outside of our box that we have put ourselves in and become more adaptive to not only the animal but to the hunters around us. Now, like I said, don't get me wrong. I do understand that on smaller properties, yes, they do get hammered and we can run into a overcrowding effect there. And I do understand that parking can get a little bit irritating on these big forest WMAs and so on of that nature. But if we just pause and slow down and understand that there's a lot more public land than we're giving credit for and a lot fewer hunters than we're giving credit for, we'll understand that we don't necessarily have a land crowding issue as much as we have a hunter tactics crowding issue. We're all out here doing the same thing. We're all out here enjoying the same life, the same animals with the same goals. And if we would pause and understand that if we just look 2 ridges over, we'll probably be in the same type of terrain that we were in, that we just had to walk past because we ran into 6 other hunters, I think we'll be a lot better for it. Let me hear your opinions on what you think about the public land around you. Let me know if you disagree with me or agree with me. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. And until next time, see you on the hill.